Hi, all. DT Neil talking to you about stories, science fiction, fantasy, horror, all sort of genre things from a writer's perspective. I saw that there's the seventh season of Black Mirror now available on Netflix, and it's really weird to think about Black Mirror. First of all, it's kind of insane to me that it's been seven seasons. This is the seventh season of Black Mirror. And it's really strange that I feel like the real world has either lapped or is lapping or has exceeded the fever dreams of Black Mirror. That it's almost a vestige of a bygone time when you go back to like when it first appeared and warning us about the perils of technology, especially consumer-based technology. Like the world, and how often in the last few years were people like, oh my gosh, this is like an episode of Black Mirror. Like it moved from a show that was doing its science fiction, dystopian kind of stuff to our everyday experience where people are like, wouldn't it be terrible if blah, 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 blah. And it's a weird place to be now because it's like the future caught up with Black Mirror. Now, admittedly, some of the consumer tech, plenty of the consumer tech that they have represented in there is still well beyond what people are dealing with in day to day. But a lot of the tech that we're dealing with is absolutely in that Black Mirror space. And so we're already on the on-ramp to it. We just haven't gotten to all that technology. And it goes back to what I've said about cyberpunk, where cyberpunk has tools and toys that are enticing in their all-encompassing consumer friendliness. We just aren't there quite yet, but the ethos that led to their creation is there. And so it's weird to look at, and it's great, it's fine that they did another series of Black Mirror. That's all good. But it's also really strange to think about it now because it does feel like it already did all the warnings that it could. And now the world that we occupy is that space. And there really isn't much to warn us about now that we don't already that we aren't aware of on some level. When you just see how people respond to data and privacy and algorithms and spyware and geofencing and all those things that are just popping into our daily lives, it makes, on some level, Black Mirror almost quaint in its edgy warning of everything. I haven't watched it yet, so this doesn't count as a review, so don't worry about spoilers. I'm not talking about that, but I'm just saying aesthetically as a whole, it's curious to look at Black Mirror now versus when it first appeared, and it's like, ooh, this is really cool. And they knocked down the assorted dominoes to get, they just went through them already. And I don't know how much real estate there's left to explore with that stuff. It's similar to what I've said about science fiction in general, is that there are, there's manifold science fiction stories over the decades that have artfully explored so many aspects of the human condition, human society, human technology, good and bad, utopian, dystopian, all of that. They've explored a lot of that stuff, and most people don't read it or think about it or dwell on it. But it's still there, and it's marching onward. And the lost dreams of past generations science fiction, they fall by the wayside. They're no longer relevant in some regard. there are still, and it's not that we haven't covered all the avenues and the nooks and crannies of the human condition in science fiction, but I'm trying to frame this up in a way that makes sense. It's kind of like people now currently watching the last season of Handmaid's Tale. Okay. And I remember reading the original The Handmaid's Tale when I was like 22. I was like a long time ago. And it was, it was written as a response to and a cautionary tale. It was written in reaction to the Reagan years and the political evangelical mindset. It was a cautionary tale from that. And clearly, what Margaret Atwood warned us about, most people didn't really pay attention to. And now, when somebody watches A Handmaid's Tale, or The Handmaid's Tale, people are, like when we watch the show, if you turn off the show and then watch the news, you've got to be like, wow, that was a very smooth transition from supposed dystopian fantasy, science fiction, to everyday life. And that's unsettling, at the very least. That's about as politely as I can put it. I mean, what does that say? Like, if you're looking for your entertainment as escape, does clicking on Handmaid's Tale suffice? Or is that world just too close to what we are dealing with now to qualify as an escape? Like I used to say a long time ago, Handmaid's Tale is not a how-to manual. It's a cautionary tale. It's a dystopian story meant to warn people about certain things. It isn't intended as a how-to or a documentary. It's not intended in that way. And yet here we are in a particular time of cultural crisis with people going, yeah, I could get behind that. Let's do that. Let's deprive women of the capacity to vote. Let's make women finally and fully subordinate to men. Let's just do that. And the world will be better for it. It's distressing. It's really distressing. It's disturbing. It says to me again how we're grinding on and certain ideas continue to roll on through, even as those ideas are more and more maladaptive to everyday life, to everyday good civilized life. And so Black Mirror puts me in that place a little bit too. It's like, in a way, by focusing on the toys, on the techno toys, like, ooh, wouldn't that be cool if we could do this? And, instead of, wow, people are using that to get through their days or their lives. That's a problem. Maybe that says something about society. Again, these are science fiction-y thoughts. This is why those of us who are still human and writing anything with science fiction, we're an endangered species in the face, apparently, of the word pimps and AI, but we're thinking about these things. And is it relevant anymore, or is it, as I said quite a while ago, is it just techno fantasy that we are embracing the technological toys as a fantasy of escape? Black Mirror, especially in that case, not so much Handmaid's Tale, which is more tied into socio-cultural relations. Just musing, just thinking about that.